we worked the deal out where we pre-recorded, and we had about a 11-day, 12-day stretch there where we weren't scheduled to record anything, and that's the longest that we've gone in at least a year. I don't remember what we did last holiday season. And then we did the special omnibus program in the middle of that, but that, was necessary. But when last we visited on the regularly scheduled podcast, when last we visited the Cult of Cornet listeners, I had just revealed to them that we discovered the source of the water coming from under the dishwasher in the kitchen, which was the busted, leaky, old lead pipe in the wall. The people came and they cut the holes out, the backs out of my cabinets in the kitchen, holes in the wall, and changed that pipe out. And I had a fish pond that had developed in my crawl space that was going to need to be addressed, right? And so I said, I don't want people, because they're to do this crawl space thing, they got to bring in the guy with the wet vac, the sump pump, the shop vac, the thing that sucks up the water. They got to bring that in, suck up the water, and they got to bring in the blowers, the fans that blow in. They got to bring the dehumidifier, and they got to wipe all the shit. I don't want them doing this on Christmas weekend. It's supposed to be peaceful, right? I said, wait till next week. It's been there for who knows how long. Is another 3 days going to make any difference? They said, no, we'll come next week, right? So the following week, they had picked a day. And I'll have to suffer the presence of outsiders, of interlopers on this one particular day, but at least I'll get my crawl space dried up. Well, they're supposed to be here at 9 o'clock in the morning. And the woman, the dispatch woman, is very nice. She actually knew people that lived down the street from me, been out here in this area many times. Very polite woman. She was calling me to give me the updates, but they were supposed to be here at 9 o'clock in the morning, and they didn't make it because they apparently had a flooded church. The baptisms got out of hand. I'm not sure what was going on, but the church was flooded, and the crew had been redirected to that. So I'm sitting there waiting every hour. Well, then one more hour. So finally, by about 4 o'clock that day, they had gotten here, set this stuff up, and gotten out the front door. But at least it was late. I get 2 free days. I got 2 free days out of the deal because of New Year's weekend, right? So the crawl space was being addressed. But one thing that I plan to do, Brian, and you know how odd this is, I was actually going to return phone calls over Christmas weekend.
You never do that anymore.
Well, because people are going, why are you such a prick? No, it's because I do return phone calls if they're related to business or the shit's on fire. It's got, a time limit, or, I never talk to friends that I want to talk to just about nothing because I want to talk to them. I'm always talking to you, Brian, instead. Chuckle there. No, we talk quite a bit, but I never just call people back because I don't have time, because I'm always running around like my head's on fire. I don't make social calls. So I figured Christmas weekend, I'm going to call people back that I've owed phone calls to for months and months and months. And actually, at first, I'd called you to let you know about our plot with you on our recording schedule for that omnibus deal. And I couldn't get you. The call wouldn't go through. I said, his phone's fucked up. So I sent you an email saying your phone's fucked up. And you call me like 10 minutes later. I said, your phone's fucked up. I haven't noticed anything. Well, the reason why you didn't was because my phone was fucked up. Because then I tried to call somebody else.
You insisted to me that it was my phone.
I insisted to you. Hey, don't tell me I'm a fucking idiot, motherfucker. Before we went on the air today, you took 3 tries to get the right month. So don't fucking cast aspersions over here on. Anyway, I tried to call somebody else. It was get a constant busy signal. It wouldn't ring or anything. Just and then what the fuck? Well, Brian just called me. And then I tried to call somebody here in town, and it went through. And over a trial and error period of that, I figured out that I could receive long distance phone calls. Do they even say that anymore? It's a long distance call. Long distance is calling. Anything out of my local area, I could make local calls and get local calls in return. I could receive long distance calls, but I couldn't make any goddamn call to somebody past local call. I would just get this incessant meh, meh, meh. And then I start thinking, well, fuck. And it's Christmas weekend. So, you're going to sit on some kind of hold for a long period of time. And besides that, I'm thinking, how the fuck do you call the phone company to tell them that your phone doesn't work? Think about that. So anyway, I said, fuck it. It's not meant for me to call people back. I'm going to wait till Monday morning, and I'm going to call my telephone carrier and give them a piece of my mind. And from that point on, we possibly will end this relationship. In the future, we will neither nod nor speak, right? And I get up Monday morning, I turn the news on, which I hadn't paid attention to over Christmas weekend because I was puttering about the house and some of these other things I'm telling you about. And then I watched the news. My phone carrier of my office phone here, which was the phone in question, plugged into the wall like Alexander Graham Bell intended it to be, is AT&T. And I watched the news. That Nashville bomber on Christmas blew up the AT&T building. And then suddenly I try to call you to see if it works because I figure, well, if I can call you, my phone is working again. And son of a bitch, wouldn't you know who won the pony? The call went through. But by then I didn't have time to call all these people that I was going to call over my leisurely Christmas weekend. So I'm still doing that in the future. But can you believe that the bomber conspired on Christmas to fuck up my phone reception? They're trying to figure out what the motive was. He was obviously one of these AEW fans.
Oh, stop it.
That wanted to silence me, and he thought we did this show by phone, and he blew up the AT&T building specifically to keep me off the air.
There are plenty of other people that hate you.
That's true.
Did you hear the tape, like the creepy audio of like the warning that was coming out of his RV before it blew up?
Yeah, it was something like, if you can hear this, evacuate now.
Oh, it wasn't that. It was like a weak voice. I was like, if you hear this message, please evacuate. Really creepy. And then apparently it played Petula Clark's Downtown.
What? Wait, what now?
You didn't hear that? Oh, no.
I did not hear this.
Apparently the warnings were going off for a while, and that's a weird thing to hear if you're in your apartment sleeping and all of a sudden, please evacuate if you could hear this. And then it played Downtown by Petula Clark, which got lumped into the British invasion.
See, now you're saying that he was sending mixed messages. I'm surprised people didn't get hurt over this because at one time he said, evacuate, get away. And then he's playing a pleasing melodic pop song from the 60s that would encourage everybody to gather downtown. The lights are much brighter there. You can forget all your troubles and forget all your cares and go downtown.
But listen to some of the other lyrics, though. When you're alone and life is making you lonely, you could always go downtown.
Mm-hmm.
When you've got worries, all the noise and the hurry seems to help, I know. I mean, it's kind of creepy if you actually apply it to what he did, this lunatic.
It's actually even creepier that you've given it that much thought.
Well, I've read several articles about it. I'm not the originator of this.
You're on the same wavelength as the bomber in that, well, I'll send this plain message by playing Petula Clark's Downtown. Everybody will know I'm about to blow something up.
What's the frequency, Kenneth?
But anyway, so even if he wasn't trying to silence me, he prevented many, many people from getting the Christmas miracle of a phone call from Jim Cornette. Then, speaking of the phone, I've mentioned to everybody Stacey's back problem issue. She's going to have surgery on at some point. This was a few days before Christmas. They informed her the week before Christmas. They informed her of this. They said, we'll call you to schedule a surgery because we have to know the store at Cornette's Collectibles at jimcornette.com is closed for the month of January. It was going to be in anyway, but now that's an open-ended close based on when her surgery is, what her recuperation time is. She's not supposed to lift anything over 10 pounds for a set period of time, blah, blah, blah. It's also quite painful. She's limping around. After 2 weeks, hear nothing, so she calls, gets the doctor. The doctor looks at her chart, I guess, over the phone. He says, oh, yes, that cyst there is pressing on the nerve. It's quite large, needs to be taken out. That must be quite painful. Yes. We'll call you and let you know when we can do that. That's it. We still know nothing more than we did 2 to 2.5 weeks ago about when this potential thing might happen. Bear in mind that the weather, since my little break started, has sucked. I think 3 times now it's mostly been cold and wet and dreary, but 3 times some kind of front has come through where for a period of time it's 60 degrees, like just hours, and then suddenly it rains, pours rain, and then 12 hours later it's snow flurry and it's below freezing. But so the weather has sucked. So this leads into the next story, which is just rotten, because I haven't been outside much because it's been cold and it's been raining and wet. And I hadn't been out on my deck for the same reason. So this was just right before New Year's. I think it was 2 days, the 30th or whatever, 2 days before New Year's. I happened to be looking out. I'm in the office here, and I look out at my deck, and I'm admiring the work that the Monroe brothers did on replacing the flooring on my deck and painted the railing and everything. It looks nice. And I look back, and I see something on the fence row in between me and the next door neighbor. It looks like a big white plastic bag has blown up against the wire fence or something. It's stuck there. I'm like, well, that looks odd. And it's right next to a bush. And I'm like, what? So I get the binoculars. And a deer has gone to jump over the fence from my yard to the next door neighbor's yard. And he wasn't that big of a deer. And he's got his left rear foot hooked in you know what a farm fence looks like, has the squares of wire, right?
Yeah.
He's got his left foot hooked in that, and he's gone over the top, and he's done like the boys do the fucking tying your arms in the ropes deal, where the bottom one's over the top and top one's over the bottom. And he's stuck there, and he's laying on the other side. And he's just laying there like deer do. They just lay there, but he can't get his legs still sticking in this 4.5 foot tall fence, and the rest of him's down on the ground. And I freak out because now I haven't been looking. I don't know how long he might have been there. And I'm like, what the fuck? So I run down, I'm screaming at Stace. We're running back there. And oh boy, when we got there, he'd been there some time because his ankle was all cut up where the wire was around it and everything. And he's seeing us and we're freaking him out. And he's trying to get up and he can't move. And he's making the noise they make. And she's reached through trying to pet him and calm him down through the fence and get the wire cutters and cut the wire, and boom, and down he goes. By now my neighbor's come out because he's seen us running, flailing our arms around in the backyard. And the poor thing is down on its belly and trying to get up, but he's either, I don't know whether he broke his leg or broke or dislocated his hip, but he can't stand up. And he's trying to hop on the 3 legs and trying to get away from us. We're backing up and leaving him some room. And I'm screaming at Stace, go get your phone, call the vet. Because I'm thinking our vet may not be able to treat deer, but they can tell us, hopefully someone that can. And so the poor thing kind of crawls up to the shop building that the guy's got in his backyard, and we can get, around the bushes, and he feels safer there, and he's just laying there. So we're not going to chase him because then he's going to hurt himself worse. Well, our vet is closed because it's going on 5 o'clock. So she calls the emergency 24-hour vet clinic over here. We've taken Harley to a time or two. And they say, oh, well, we can't do wildlife like that, and you'd have to, contact, what did they say first? Because this was a lot of phone calls. Oh, they say contact such and such wildlife sanctuary, which is way far away from here, but they might know something. Well, we try to call that number. Well, that number won't go through that they've just given us. Then we call another animal clinic over here that they also gave us the number to, and they said, oh, you got to call Zabada. Well, we finally get this other wildlife sanctuary. And they said, oh, well, we don't come and get them. I said, well, then how are they supposed to get there? Take a fucking bus? Who can tell me apparently, as I'm about to let you people know, there is nobody in a city of 1 million people that you can call that will come and help a poor, hurt deer in your backyard, even if you're willing to pay thousands of dollars for that service. Because I'm trying to find anybody that will take my money to help this fucking deer. And then the neighbor starts calling. He calls the 311 to get the... Oh, and then also somebody said, call Kentucky Wildlife and Game or something. What's the number? Well, I don't know, but Google it. So Stacy Googles it. We call that number, and that number takes us to the fucking state police station in E-Town, which is 60 miles from here in a different county. I explain to them what the problem is. They say, oh, it's in what, Jefferson County. Oh, let me transfer you. Hold on the line for 2 minutes, and then the line goes dead. So the neighbor's trying to call around, and you remember we had a deer accident situation here a few years ago when one of our deer got hit by a car down front. The cops came out, and that was a whole, and I guess that's in the archives or on YouTube somewhere. I'm not even going to revisit that horrifying fucking story. So the neighbor calls the cops, and it's fucking, by now it's getting dark, and they say, oh, wait, maybe tomorrow you should call so-and-so. And now I'm freaking out, because now the poor thing has to lay there all night, right? So all night, not all night, because now I'm a nervous wreck. I'm got anxiety. I'm starting to get heart fucking palpitations. My chest is tight. Stacy gives me 2 Xanaxes. So that I can go to sleep, because I'm fucking, and then I'm thinking, should I be taking water back there? No, I don't want to scare him. He'll hurt himself worse. What the fuck? So then the next morning, the neighbor had said he's going to call me when he gets somebody on the phone. Well, I didn't hear, and I'm just not even going to go out in the yard. I don't want to think about this poor thing or see it or whatever. I'll eventually the neighbor will let me know something's happened. Well, then about 10 o'clock or 10:30, Harley starts barking like crazy, and I run back to the other side of the house, and Stace says, we just heard a gunshot. I'm like, oh, now, because when I woke up that morning, poor thing has first thing on my mind, so I'm miserable anyway. Now I'm fucking even more miserable, right? And I'm sitting there, and I'm thinking, well, I'm supposed to be doing stuff, but I'm moping, and the phone rings, and it's a neighbor. And I said, hello. I said, yeah, we heard the gunshot. It was, I guess the only thing they could do for it, blah, blah, blah. Guess what? Because now, let me preface this by saying that this guy has lived here for a couple years. He's a very nice guy. We've, had conversations back and forth, but it's not like he's known me for years or knows me in every way perfectly. So this is not as a preposterous a thing to ask me as what you people will know that it is, right, to him. But guess what he asked me? So I was wondering if you could do me a favor. I said, what's that? He said, can you help me get the deer in the back of my truck so I can take it over to my other property? I'm like, they didn't take it? And well, first I just busted out laughing. And he's like, no, it's not a big deer. I said, no, I know how big it is. The idea that someone would ask me to help dispose of a dead deer and have to look at it, not a body. I told him, I said, now if it's a human body and you got a legitimate reason for having it, I'll help you. But no, but if it was him or you and he started it, I'll help you out, Richie, right? But no, I can't. No, not a deer. But I just busted out laughing at first, because what a preposterous question to ask me. I said, I'll pay somebody else to do it. I'll come over. I'll cut your grass. I can't see this poor dead deer. I've been on Xanax for a day and a half because of this thing. So he got it. But I said, they didn't take it. No, it was the cops finally came over because nobody else would do it and shot the poor thing. So that branched over into New Year's Day. I'm in a state of Xanax deer depression for that period of time. And then, what is today? So the day after New Year's, yesterday, as the crow flies. I haven't talked to you. I'm up early as I am every day, but Stace doesn't usually get up that early. But I'm up here in the office at 9, not even quite 9 o'clock. The phone rings. Hello? And she said, come down here. I said, what's the matter? She said, there's a lost dog down here. Like, what? So I'm running down. She has got up to let Harley out. And there was I go down into the tub room and open the door where I think that she is with Harley. And there is an almost full-grown, feisty, lovable golden retriever or Labrador of some kind, just running around in circles. I'm like, there's a lost dog in the house. Well, he came up to the door and scratched on the door. She was about to let Harley out and saw there's a dog there. And he's like, psh, 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 can I come in and play? So now it's 30-something degrees and it's wet. And we haven't had a stray dog in our yard in ages because the people who live to the left of us have one of those electric fences, and her dog never gets out. And the people that live to the right, their backyard's fenced in. They got little dogs. And then, as I said with the deer, we have like these 4 or 5 properties together. If they would stay in this area, they'd be safe. But they try to keep going into the subdivisions or going across the road, and bad things happen to them. They have their deer-friendly properties here, and they got almost 20 acres, combined. But they've, well, this dog has come from somewhere outside the periphery, which means it's one of these subdivisions, and there's 250 fucking houses. I'm feeling it's got a collar on, but no tag. No tag with the fucking name or the whatever. I'm thinking, what the fuck are we going to do here now? So with it might be Chip. And it was so feisty, we couldn't tell whether it was until later on that it was a boy dog, but we couldn't tell what it was, right? Because it was being very feisty. It wouldn't hold still. So maybe it's chipped because they got the chip now they can put in. We got Harley one where, the vets can scan and you can see who the dog is and who's its owner is by this little chip they implant in them, which is we ought to keep track of the Republicans that way. So we think, can we get this big dog into the truck, take the dog over to the vet, have him scan for the chip? Boy, get a treat. We'll try to lure it in the truck. It seems friendly. It's just, happy and tongue wagging. Well, I pulled Black Beauty out, and Stace gets one of Harley's leashes and puts it on the collar, and it immediately runs and jumps in the back door. As soon as the door opens, it's first one in. So this is a family dog. So we go over to the vet. They scan it, get the chip information. We call this some guy from the one of these subdivisions over here now. And I don't know how if you've only got one of these subdivision houses, a dog this size doesn't have room to run around, for heaven's sake. Their yards are just like postage stamps. This dog needs to be out in the country with a farm where he can run free with the cows. Anyway, so the guy comes in, picks up the dog, and then we come back home. Very restful and relaxing vacation. Not a lot happened. No reason to get upset. How was yours?
Not bad. Not bad.
Oh, good.
I still worked primarily during it, but I got to also chill out. I got to watch season 3 of Cobra Kai, which I was really looking forward to. And Stephen P. New recommended I watch The Mandalorian, so I'm going to watch that pretty soon. And it took 20 days. 20 days.
It's there.
Including 10 days in the state of New Jersey. But the Buddy Rogers book, Master of the Ring, by Tim Hornbaker, finally arrived, and I'm in the middle of it, and I'm in love with it. It is extraordinary.
It's fabulous.
Extraordinary. Fabulous. The research he did. And everything's sourced, so you see where everything came from. Fantastic. Just what a fantastic job.
But 10 days in New Jersey, it takes an hour and 10 minutes to drive from one end of New Jersey to the other.
Yeah, there's no excuse. There's no excuse. I have other things that were sent to me, either at the house or at the P.O. box, that got here in 2 days, 3 days. This was sent priority mail with a tracking number, thank God. So I was able to see the disgrace.
So you were able to see that it wasn't even near you at this point, and it wasn't being delivered to you.
Why is it spending another day in Edison, New Jersey? I can't explain this. But apparently the post office...
I have to get up early.
The post office is very
I have
short.
no maid and probably never shall.
Okay, I don't know where that's from. Well, what is that from?
It's a gift. You sound like W.C. Fields' wife. I have to get up early and make breakfast for you and the children. I have no maid and probably never shall.
Well, speaking of gifts, a lot of people think that your programming is a gift to them. And a lot of people may right now be thinking, this show's been going on for 30 minutes. Not one wrestling-themed question or comment or anything about professional wrestling. I want to sue.
Well, if they do, you know what I'm going to tell them to? I'm going to tell them to do, rather. I'll tell you what I'm going to tell them to do.
What is that you're going to tell them to do?
I'm going to tell them to go piss up a rope because they can't sue me because I have the greatest litigator in the history of all litigation. I have the Baron of the Barristers. I have the Legal Eagle. I have the consigliere of the Cult of Cornette all wrapped up. And if you try to sue with anyone but my guy, then you're going to lose. So there's no even reason to try. And you know who my guy is, Brian.
Call Stephen P. News. If you need to sue. An outlaw mud show or two. Those are the rest.
Yes, ladies and gentlemen, about to take on a case against the Kentucky Department of Fish, Wildlife, and Game for leaving injured deer in people's backyards. Stephen P. New can take your case as well. He's not just going to defend the defenseless, poor little furry woodland creatures. He is going to defend the poor, defenseless human beings and Homo sapiens that are downtrodden, damaged, and otherwise inconvenienced by major corporations, negligent people, hard-hearted billionaires, and other individuals who put profit and malice before the public good. And whether it's the opioid addiction issue, whether it's the mistreatment of the elderly in nursing homes, whether it's the cancer that was given to an entire town in West Virginia, whether it's the many, many cases that Stephen P. New is currently filing for cancer caused by Roundup or the baby powder issue that we've talked about so many times in the past. How many times, Brian, in the last 2 or 3 years have we mentioned some group of people who have been harmed or damaged or their families that Stephen P. New, like a white knight in shining armor, is riding a horse of legal justice straight through their courtroom like Marshal Matt Dillon? How many of those groups and people have we talked about Stephen P. New helping? I'll tell you how many. A bunch. That's how many. He can help you too, folks. 888-692-8084, newlawoffice.com. Get even with Stephen, the most famous barrister in and around professional wrestling since the days of Clarence Mason. He can help you, or he can point you in the right direction. Sometimes that direction is straight to hell, but nevertheless, he will point you in the right direction. Stephen P. New, newlawoffice.com.
There have been wrestlers we've talked about in the past that have become doctors. Are there any wrestlers that became lawyers?
Ooh, not just locker room lawyers, but actual lawyers?
Legit lawyers, courtroom lawyers.
I know that we have recently found out that there are a couple of people who have just squeaked by the law exam who moonlight as wrestlers, but I don't think it's ever happened in the other direction. That's interesting. But then again, would you want Killer Tim Brooks to defend you in a court of law over a fucking statutory charge of some description?
Well, it doesn't have to be Killer Tim Brooks. Ladies and gentlemen, for the defense, the missing link.
Yeah, I'm thinking some famous gimmicks that would walk into the courtroom in a fucking suit and tie and present their case, but looking facially like they looked in their wrestling days. Interesting. Maybe Bull Belinsky. He'd be a good attorney.
Heyman.
Well, now, actually, Heyman's got it in his genes.
That's right.
That's not what some of the girls used to tell me, but Heyman's Heyman's father was an attorney, so I'm surprised that Paul didn't end up being an attorney. He has played one on television.
That's right.